Welcome, movie fans, to another podcast episode of Bent Cinema with Nathan Box. Our special movie correspondent on Left of Str8 Podcasts shares his thoughts and movie reviews, actor profiles, and best of or worst of lists for all things cinema. Nathan knows his stuff, so grab some popcorn and get ready to go to the movies, right here on Bent Cinema.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Bent Cinema with our very special movie correspondent, Mr. Nathan Box, is in house with us again today. Nathan, how you doing, my friend?
Pretty good, Scott. Happy Pride to you and happy Pride to everyone listening along.
Happy Pride to you, my friend. It is a month full of fun and excitement, busyness. I mean, you're busy enough out of season, and now you have this on top of everything else. So I appreciate you taking the time. I'm hitting up, I think, 4 festivals this year, getting ready for the road trip. So it's a crazy time. But I think it's a good time to talk about LGBTQ in cinema. We've had a couple of really good years. We've had a couple of sparse years, but I think you've come up with a good list of what you look for. I mean, your movies in general, the LGBTQ is not on your radar. You just appreciate a good movie, right? So talk about what brought you to these films.
Yeah, so when you gave me the challenge, I sort of looked through this sort of list that I keep of movies that I rate 5 stars or above. And all of these movies that we're going to talk about today, I consider for me to be perfect films. And but I would put their storytelling and their messaging right up there with some of the great films of all time. They just happen to be centered on LGBTQ characters, and I think that adds another level of intrigue and nuance to their stories. But also, as a gay man myself, it makes them really powerful, and I have enjoyed, particularly over the last decade or so, just to see more of our stories being told on the big screen. It's about time, and it is about time that a wider audience get to see these films and experience these stories. I think that's how we break down barriers, we break down walls, and at the end of the day, you sort of discover that we're not that different.
Well said. And I think Pride Month is especially poignant because that is a time where we want to talk about various things, not just, it's about history, it's about what's going on in the community politically, it's what's going on socially. And I think you have a really pretty wide celebration there that we're going to talk about. But I think that's all those things. I mean, pride is just like being LGBTQ is not one thing, right? Pride's not just one thing. It's about a lot of different things. I love the history aspect of it. A lot of people like the activism part of it. A lot of people have different parts to enjoy. So, and I think film gives us those lessons in a lot of fun ways, a little hard-hitting ways. And so good choice on these. I have not seen a couple of them, so you're going to have to fill me in. Let's start with Close, because I'm not too familiar with Close. What is that film about, and what drew you to that one? What caused you to rate that so high?
Well, Close, back in 2002, was nominated for an Oscar 2022 was nominated for an Oscar in the Best International Film category. It is an A24 film, and it's a French film. And it is about 2 young boys who are coming of age, and they are best friends. One begins to feel more deeply for the other, and I think the other one is really trying to both boys are trying to figure out their place in the world. One boy is definitely coming around to the fact that he is gay, and he feels an attraction for his best friend. And what happens from there is it is devastating. It is a hard film to watch. It keep the Kleenex and tissues close by because you'll need them. But I think it is a wonderful story about friendship. I think it's a powerful story about coming out and coming to terms with one's sexuality. And it is a film that I think needs to get some more attention.
I love that. I'm gonna have to watch that. I mean, I told you off air. I just did a group interview with the actors and the creator of the Dead Detectives, the boy, Dead Boy Detectives, that's on Netflix right now, and that kind of has the same kind of theme where one of them's kind of in love with the other and how that goes. I remember my own coming out process has become out a jillion times. One of the things I had to do is I got a best friend at work that I was working with, and he said, "Well, we should be roommates. We should move in together. I think we would get well." And it's like he didn't know I was gay. No one at work knew I was gay, so I wrote this entire letter of it, and it's we had those different experiences, right? So, wow, what a great story! I love that. Well, and let's go into one of my all-time favorites, The Whale. I think that is such an amazing story. I've had Sam Irvin on my show before, who was a producer on that and everything, and such a great Brendan Fraser at his best again. Talk about that film.
Yeah, same year as Close came out, 2022. I think was a really powerful year for LGBTQ movies. This is Brendan Fraser at his absolute best. It's also sort of his renaissance and welcome back to Hollywood, even though he never really left, but it was sort of his welcome back to the big screen in a really big way. This movie is based on a play. It is sort of shot in a way that you would think of a play that was being adapted to the big screen. It is a man who is severely overweight, who is homebound and realizes that the end is near. Throughout the movie, we sort of discover the tragedy that led to him being homebound, being in this situation. With the clock ticking, he makes a decision to try to sort of reconnect with his daughter and sort of try to level the playing field and get everything out in the open before he dies. And it is, again, a powerful sort of gut punch of a movie. I dare really anyone to watch it and not sob themselves to pieces. And I promise for people listening, not everything on this list is sad, but these are the movies that I'm sort of drawn to. But God, this story is fantastic, and I think when you watch it, you will understand why Brendan Fraser walked away with an Academy Award.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've been a huge fan. I mean, the Mummies were kind of fun in camp. Of course, George of the Jungle Silly. Gods and Monsters is where he got my heart back in the day. And I think there's been stories since the movie came out about some allegation of sexual harassment. It's one of the reasons he really wasn't doing much in Hollywood for a while, which I thought was a very interesting aspect as well. So, but yeah,
Yeah, he
definitely well deserved on that.
Yeah, he is not a big fan of the Hollywood Foreign Press, who puts on the Golden Globes. There was some alleged sexual assault from a former president of that organization, I believe, and it may have ended up him sort of being blacklisted for a little while, which is a shame, an absolute shame.
Right. Well, let's lighten up a bit and go to theater camp. I remember us talking about it a couple months ago and how much you enjoyed the film when we were doing our year end, and you just talked about it being a fun, guilty pleasure. Talk about theater camp.
Yeah, so this is a movie I found at the Seattle International Film Festival last year. I didn't have tremendous expectations for it. It stars Ben Platt and Molly Gordon. And if you have ever been a theater kid, if you've ever been around theater kids, I was a theater kid, you know that we're a weird bunch. And this whole movie is like sort of taking all those theater camp kids and all the cliches that they are, you know, we have the wildly expressive gay kid, and we have, the lesbian girl is sort of coming to her own and figuring things out. And this is just an absolute hilarious movie, and it was one of those movies that was an absolute joy to watch with a completely packed movie theater. It was just an absolute joy to sort of find yourself in community and laugh and laugh and laugh with a group of people. And there was just so many times watching this movie that what they were showing on screen took me back to those days in high school. And I thought, man, that is too true, and it is hitting home, and it was an absolute riot. So if you're digging through this list and you're thinking to yourself, man, these are all really sad movies, I recommend Theater Camp. It will it'll lighten things up for you.
I enjoyed that movie so much. I can't agree with more everything you said. On the day we're filming this, Ben Platt's new album gets released today, and I can't remember the name of it for the life of me, but I am going to see him in Columbus on July 2nd, right before I go on my road trip, because I've been such a fan of his music as well as his acting. So yeah, that was an excellent movie. It was so much fun. Let's talk about 1985.
Oh yeah. So 1985 stars Corey Michael Smith, and it is directed by Yen Tan, and it is a movie that I saw while I was still living in LA, and I probably saw it in a movie theater filled with maybe 3 or 4 other people. I don't think this movie made more than $1 million in its box office run, so it probably, made the rounds at film festivals, and then got a showing in New York and LA, and didn't go far from there. But it is also, you're going to hear this theme a lot, it is also a devastating movie. It takes place in the year 1985. It is about a man who comes home for the holidays, and he is currently living in New York, but he's returning home to his childhood home in Texas. And he's coming home with 2 secrets. One, he needs to come out, and the other is he has AIDS. And he has to sort of come out with both of those things. And it's all shot in black and white. It's beautifully done. But I think there are so many stories from the HIV/AIDS crisis that are still waiting to be told. And I think this is a powerful one if this is a subject matter you want to spend some time in and learn more about.
Yeah, and we talk about the heaviness of these. I mean, at the time, especially for a lot of these, that's what was really the subject matter. There wasn't, unless you were going camp the other way to all the campy gay movies, there wasn't really that much to choose from besides those heavy dramas that were done really well, either written well or directed well or acted well. That was usually only found in dramas, right?
Yeah, and I for every one of these dramatic movies, there's also a Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, that I think you should watch. So they're all over. My tastes in these films are all over the place. I'm really drawn to the dramatic ones and want people to spend some time with them.
Well, then speaking of the subject, I mean, Philadelphia is on your list. So just amazing performances and the story so poignant for the time. But talk about your feelings on Philadelphia.
Yeah. I saw Philadelphia my freshman year of college, so way back in 2002, a decade after it had been out. It actually was an assignment in my English comp class. We had to do like a comparative literature sort of thing, so I had to write an essay about this movie and another one. And I was so mesmerized by both the performances of Tom Hanks, but Denzel Washington's performance as well. Again, this is one of those stories that needs to be told about the HIV/AIDS crisis. But Tom Hanks' character has been fired from his job and he suspects that he's been fired because he's been outed, and they know that he has HIV. And most of the movie is sort of a procedural court case, but it really shines in the moments away from the courtroom when we get to know Tom Hanks, and we get to know Denzel Washington's character, and we get to see the maturity and the growth, particularly of Denzel Washington's character, as he begins to let go of some of those preconceived notions, those things that were around in the 80s about not wanting to touch anyone that had HIV or AIDS, or that it was a gay cancer, or those types of things, and sort of seeing him make this arc to a full understanding and a full realization of who this person he is defending is so powerful to watch. And it's got to be, this movie's probably in my top 5 favorite films of all time. And every time I watch it, particularly in the courtroom scenes toward the end, I bawl like a baby. And it feels so cathartic to know how far we've come in such a short time, but it's also evidence of how far we've still got to go.
I agree 100%. I can't add anything to that. It was just an amazing film at the time, still an amazing film. Absolutely loved it. Spoiler alert, I don't remember what it is, or I've not seen it. Tell me what spoiler alert's about.
Yeah, spoiler alert is it stars Jim Parsons and Ben Aldridge. Again, it came out in 2022, so that's 3 films from that year, all about the LGBTQ community. So spoiler alert, they tell you right up front at the beginning of this movie, one of these characters is going to die by the end of the film. How we get there is sort of the journey. This movie is a dramedy. It is really funny at parts, and it is really heartfelt at others. Sally Fields is in it, which is also really fantastic. But sort of watching this couple fall in love and move in together and sort of deal with the pain of realizing that you may lose someone, and that sort of, if we're lucky, we all get to be in relationships, and if we're really lucky, we get to spend our whole lives with someone that we may eventually watch pass away. And I think there's a lot of true love to be found in that sort of commitment and the arc of time with someone. And I think this movie does a really fantastic job of telling that story. But it was also really fantastic to see Jim Parsons play someone else besides his character on Big Bang Theory. I think he has a lot of range. He's expressed some of that range on the stage in New York, but seeing him in another sort of field on the big screen, it was really powerful to see. And I hope he gets cast in more parts, because the guy's got some range.
Now, maybe I do know that. Is that the one that's based on Michael Musto's book? Maybe? I'm not sure. I have to look that up.
Yeah, it might be. It is sort of a Christmas-y story in ways, but yeah, I'm not sure. Most movies are probably based on a book.
I'm going to look that up. I think that's based on Michael Musto's book, because I remember Jim Parsons and I remember Sally Field in it. At the end, are they in a beach house or on a beach somewhere?
Yes,
near
sir.
the end?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's it. All right. It's based on a book by Michael Musto, and you're right. That is an excellent film. I don't know why I didn't remember the name. But yeah, very, very, very good. Wow. Okay. And last but not least, we talked about a couple times in a couple different things was All of Us Strangers, which was just one of the movies of last year. But let's talk about that again.
Yeah, I think you and I are like the president and vice president of the official fan club for this movie, and we're just going to keep talking about it until we get everyone we know to see it. It is, again, a devastating movie, but God, it just sort of centers on this idea of What if someone that you had lost at an early age could see the person that you've become? If they could see how your life turned out and you could have another conversation with them. I mean, this movie is sort of supernatural in lots of ways. It's also, this wonderful love story at its center. It will leave you questioning everything you're watching and wondering if it's real or not. I think that's really powerful. And I cannot say enough good things about it. I could talk about this movie for days. I recommend it to everyone. I think it's so well done, so well written, so well acted, and it just sort of left me hungry to see more of what Andrew Scott has got up his sleeve and what his future might be in this industry.
I think that's going to be on our tombstone. Have you watched All of Us Strangers yet?
I think so.
We
I
are
think so.
definitely big advocates for it. But yeah, I think 100% excellent movie. And if you have not seen it yet, the acting's amazing, the directing's amazing, the writing's amazing. All of the feels, that is for sure. Being a bear of a certain age, as I am on one of my other podcasts, I will add two films that are my ones that I rewatch again a lot. Did you ever see Beautiful Thing, the English film?
I don't think so. I mean, I'll add it to the list right now.
Recommend Beautiful Thing. It's an amazing story set in England. The music is set to Mama Cass, Mamas and the Papas, has great music background. Story of two young guys, neighbors, kind of finding out their feelings toward each other. It's not necessarily a coming out, but it's a coming together type film, I like to call it. Absolutely beautifully played, young high school love type of film. Great cast. And yeah, that I recommend. And then one of my all-time favorites, I have to say, is Torch Song Trilogy. I love myself a little Harvey Firestein. It's the first time I ever came across Matthew Broderick. And that's another one that I recommend seeing this Pride season. Wow, such a great job of your 8, and I added 2 on just because I watch them everything. But thanks so much for sharing these. What does Pride mean to you this season? We try to act prideful in our lives the entire year, right? Or be full of pride at least all year long. But does Pride have any impact to you in this month?
Yeah, so I was really hopeful that we were heading in a positive direction, that we were becoming a more inclusive community, particularly after the Supreme Court decision that allowed anyone to marry whoever they chose. And sort of the last couple of years to see like book banning and not even being able to have these conversations about who we are and the classroom setting, the mandatory reporting and all this sort of stuff has been sort of painful to watch. So I think, particularly this Pride Month, I think it's probably time that we as a community sort of put that activism hat back on and realize that the work is not yet done. We'll get back to a place of purely celebrating and being really excited about who we are and sort of having a community who supports us, wrap their wings around us. But I think right now it's probably some time for some activism. It is an election year, and it's going to be a big one in November. And we've got to make sure we're on the right side of history. So this particular year, it's going to be, Pride is going to be about activism for me.
Very well said. I couldn't agree more. I mean, we talk about, and there's prides in different months for different locations for different reasons. But I think the reason we have to remember is that we're getting back to this pendulum. As you said, Pride started because of Stonewall riots in June of 1969, right? So Pride started as a protest. it slowly turned towards more of a celebration and life and love and that. And then the Supreme Court, it was even more of a celebration. Now we're back to the activism and protest again. But I agree 100%. And I think that's what we have to be mindful for in June, to remember what our basis was and what this came from. As I said, I love the history, but it's time in a year like this kind of election year with everything you mentioned. I agree 100%. So well said, my friend. Happy Pride to you. Happy Pride to all of our listeners. I appreciate you bringing these movies and being our special correspondent. We'll have another talk with Nathan later this month. You were at the Seattle Film Festival already, right? That happened not too long ago?
Yes, sir. I did 42 movies in 11 days, so I've got some opinions.
I'm tired just hearing about it, but I can't wait to talk to you all about it. You guys sure to tune into that next time, guys. We appreciate listening every time to Ben Cinnamon right here on Left of Str8 Podcast Network. Nathan, remind everyone where they can find your great website and follow you online, sir.
Yeah, the website, as always, is natetheworld.com, and my social media handle is at natetheworld. Wherever you are, I'm probably hanging out there too.
Terrific. Thanks so much, friend. I appreciate you always. Guys, have a very happy Pride Month. We will see you next time talking about the Seattle Film Festival. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Well, that's a wrap on another Bent Cinema podcast. Thanks as always to Nathan Box, who joins us twice a month here on Left of Str8 Podcasts. Be sure to give us a thumbs up or 5-star review wherever your podcasts are distributed. Until next time, we'll see you at the movies.